What is actually God? What is the understanding of God according to you? कौन है जिसने सानू बनाया है? Actual की है सिक्खी? कि सिक्खी सिर्फ एक word है? कि सिक्खी एक religion है?
In Sikhi, there's no promise of paradise. There's nothing like if you follow this set of rules and if you go to this building every couple of days and if you do this checklist that when you die,
There's no set protocols that you have to follow to get a reward from somebody.
within us is savalak. Within us is Chardi Kala. Ik Onkar is not just saying God is one. Ik Onkar is saying there is only one. It's a way of life that is focused on how do we understand that we're all one, that we're all connected. And when we understand that we're one and connected, we then recognize that the pain that others feel is pain that impacts us.
Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Onkar. Why do you think they are thief? Why do you consider them as thief of our internal self?
The most primordial fear is the fear of death. So if you can conquer this most basic fear, the greatest of fears, then there's nothing that you can't conquer.
Shri Guru Amar Das ji came and उन्होंने किया कि सती प्रथा बंद होनी चाहिए, and I feel like that was the first feminist move somebody from that time ever made to actually stop these oppressions. ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਗੁਰਰਤਨ
Sat Sri Akal Raj ji.
ਕੀ ਹਾਲ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਸਭ
Chardi Kala ji, Chardi Kala ji.
ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਹੀ ਹੋਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਸੋ ਮਚ ਆਈ ਐਕਚੁਅਲੀ ਫੀਲ ਸੋ ਮਚ ਗੁੱਡ ਰਾਈਟ ਨਾਓ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦਾ ਵੀ ਹੈਵ ਬੀਨ ਡਿਸਾਈਡਿੰਗ ਦਿਸ ਫॉर ਸੋ ਲੌਂਗ
8 months. We've had 8 months of back and forth to finally get in a moment to chat like this.
it's like so good to see you because there's some few things when we as Punjabis we came here as immigrants they kuch role models kuch figures ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ who only can stand out in the community and I feel like the contribution of your families, your brother's contribution to the community to just make it better and better and growing every day among people who don't even know what we are and where we came from. So thank you so much for that.
Those are very humbling words. Veer ji, aapa sirf koshish karte hain. We're trying our best just to make the world a little bit better. I think you're giving me a bit too much praise, but I'll take your kind words and thank you for that.
Just wanna start with asking you, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਫੀਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ like you are full Sikhi ਸਰੂਪ ਬਾਣੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ how do you feel when you go out in public, you go out in people ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਅੰਦਰ ਇੱਕ ਫੀਲ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਦ ਲੋਕ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ people who haven't heard about Sikhi when they see you, when they see oh there's a Singh or there's a person who has a turban, he has a big beard and he has his gatra in his body and how do you feel ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਜਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ observe ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ do you feel something awkward the situations got sometimes like that or is it very like experience that you can't like just have on words what kind of experience it is
so I was born in Canada. I grew up in Canada and for me it's always an opportunity to share because there is a really unique opportunity we have right now as a community to share our perspective of the world and our perspective of the world is really unique. We have a perspective in which we see everyone as one. Yeah. And it's one of I think it's the only spiritual path that I've really seen or studied that has this really profound belief in the fact that when you see another person, even as I sit here right now, and I look across and I see you as different from me, in the Sikh way, we're one. I'm one with yourself. I'm one with the earth. I'm one with nature. I'm one with strangers across this earth.
That is so beautiful.
It's a powerful idea. I'm one with people who dislike me. I'm one with people who don't like me. In the Sikh way, we see that we are one with everyone and everything, with humanity, with nature, with the universe, with everything. And so as Sikhs, we have an opportunity to share this really unique perspective of oneness with the world.
I really love this thing when you said, even people who don't like us, we're still one. How do you feel Sikhi? If I talk about Sikhi, मैं Sikhi ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂ ਐਕਚੁਅਲ 'ਚ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਸਿਰਫ ਇੱਕ ਵਰਡ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਇੱਕ ਰਿਲੀਜਨ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਜੋ ਲੋਕ ਦਸਤਾਰ ਬੰਨ੍ਹਦੇ ਆ ਦਾੜੀ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਆ ਬਾਣੇ 'ਚ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਿੱਖ ਨੇ ਇਫ ਆਈ ਐਮ ਨਾਟ ਇਨ ਅ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰ ਸਰੂਪ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਸਰੂਪ ਐਜ਼ ਬਿਨ ਸੈਡ ਬਾਈ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ am I also part of Sikhi? What is Sikhi actually?
So I'll start with a bit of a disclaimer and then I'll answer your questions. The disclaimer I want to provide is this. So I'm not a Sikh theologian. I'm not a Sikh academic. Honestly, sometimes I'm not even that good of a Sikh. What I am is someone who has a passion for sharing and communicating the perspective and Sikh worldview. I find it inspiring. I find that it's something that's really important in the world right now. And I think I have a little bit of skills in communication that I'm able to now take this beautiful Sikh worldview and share it with others. And so when I had this conversation with you today and I provide my perspective and feedback, the disclaimer is this: the knowledge that I share is not my own. I have a whole group of people around me who educate me, who I chat with regularly. When I come up with video ideas, we discuss and say, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Did I properly understand this? Am I properly communicating this? So I have a whole group of people who help educate me and help me better connect with Sikhi. So if there's anything I say that's good during this conversation, it's because of my ability to properly understand Sikhi, and I've been able to properly communicate it. If I say anything during this conversation which is incorrect and offends people, that's my own lack of knowledge and my own ego's fault. And for that, I'm sorry.
And it's always the willingness to learn.
The willingness to learn. That's what Sikh is. So you ask, what is Sikhi? Sikhi to me is not a religion. And if you think about it, Sikhs don't even refer to Sikhi as Sikhism. We refer to it as Sikhi. Because for us, it's a way of life. It's a way of life that is focused on how do we understand that we're all one, that we're all connected. And when we understand that we're one and connected, we then recognize that the pain that others feel is pain that impacts us. So we're then compelled to fight for the upliftment of all people. We're compelled to fight for the upliftment of all beings, of this whole world, of nature, of everything. We are compelled to be a force of good to help others in this world. And so to me, that is at the heart of the Sikh way of life. It is a way of life because in Sikhi, there's no promise of paradise. There's nothing like if you follow this set of rules and if you go to this building every couple of days and if you do this checklist that when you die...
There's no set protocols that you have to follow to get a reward from somebody.
A reward of everlasting life. So there's no checklist that if you... In the Sikh way, there's nothing like if you follow this set of rules and you do this checklist and you go to this building every couple of days that when you die, you'll then get everlasting paradise or access to heaven. It's the very opposite of that. In the Sikh way, we are far more focused on how we live our lives now. How can we get that heaven that others seek for after they die in this immediate moment? How can I live a life of peace, of contentment, of truth, of love? And how can I experience this today, in this moment? And that is our focus. But for as Sikhs, we say that we can accomplish this feeling of love and contentment through understanding the oneness that connects us all, but then compelled by that oneness, compelled by that understanding that we're all connected, then fight for the upliftment of all beings, of all humanity and more.
That's so beautiful. Mainu bahut vadiya gall lagi when you said Sikhi and Sikhism. We don't call it Sikhism, it's Sikhi.
100%.
And ek dusre naal connection that's trying to find a oneness in everybody, and that is so beautiful to actually learn when we see it from the way of life. How do you actually feel that people, like even in Canada, who are outside of diaspora of Punjab, there could be culture barriers. I don't even say only in Canada. मैं कहना European countries च भी जो सिख ने. How do you think जो सिक्खी दा बूटा आ ये हर एक जगह ते जा सकदा आ जब पहुंचाया जा सकदा आ without any cultural barriers, without any language barriers? How do you think the oneness can be actually produced out of people who have such a big, major or large quantities of ideologies, rituals, or you can say different traditionals? How do you think this Sikhi da bootta jehda aapa har jagah la sakde hain?
Yeah, it's a really beautiful question. So I think that's a part of why I felt compelled to start these conversations and share a little bit, because the Sikh way of life is something that can help anyone. It's a way of looking at the world. It's inspired by the divine poetry in our Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. It is a way of living that when guided by our Guru, we are able to work for the upliftment of all people. But the knowledge within our Guru is for all humanity. It's not just for Sikhs. It's for everyone. And if we look at the world right now, we're in a very difficult circumstance. We're in a world where we see there's an epidemic of loneliness. There's people who are feeling high degrees of stress, of uncertainty. And the Sikh way of life was developed to give people a way of spiritual grounding while living within society. So the distinction I'll give you is this. For so many religious traditions, if you wanted to really pursue that spiritual journey, you had an option. you had to go to the jungles. You had to escape society in a monastery.
Yeah.
You had to leave society
Your
to walk,
family.
to leave your family,
Yeah.
to walk and experience the spiritual life. The Sikh way is really unique because the Sikh way says that the arena of society, living amongst community,
Yeah.
living amongst individuals, having a family, these aren't deterrents from a spiritual way. These are actually positive factors to helping us become more spiritual and more connected. Because if you think about it, if our goal is to love all humanity, then to love all humanity, you must start by loving your family.
Your family. And it's so beautiful. I remember when I was in school, मैं school च ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਸਾਡੇ जो एक subject ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ like moral education and ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਸ ਚ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੇ chapters ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ and ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਇਹ ਉਸ ਚ ਵਿਆਖਿਆ ਸੀਗੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜੀਵਨੀ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਗ੍ਰਹਿ ਗ੍ਰਸਤੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਜੀਵਨ ਹੈ with your family, with your wife, with your kids, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੇ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਸਪਿਰਿਚੁਅਲ ਜਰਨੀ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਇਨ ਅ ਵੇ ਆਫ ਲਾਈਫ ਜੀਓ ਐਂਡ ਦੈਟ ਇਜ਼ ਆਲ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਯੂ ਬੀਂਗ ਟਰੂ ਟੂ ਯਰ ਫੈਮਲੀ being a true man, having kindness, having everything in you, and you follow Sikhi, you follow the ideology of Sikhi.
Well, just to add to that point, it's that, but there's also another angle to it. So, as I was mentioning, so many spiritual traditions, so many religions, they say that in order to become spiritual, you must leave society. You must either go to the jungles as a sadhu, as we know in South Asia, or
Sant
become
sadhu,
or you must go to the jungles as a sadhu, or become a monk, or you must leave society. The Sikh tradition is unique because we say that by living within society, this is the best arena to then become a spiritual being, to seek that spirituality. And I think the reason I've always understood this is as follows. You learn how to love by being amongst your family. And if our understanding is that the divine, the oneness we hope to connect with, is love, then the love we have towards our family and our children become a glimmer of the love that we hope to foster with the divine. And that's why throughout the Sikh way, we see metaphors of a mother's love to a child. Or someone's love for their beloved. Like you see these metaphors throughout the beautiful poetry in our Gurratan Singh. So by living within society, we have the best path provided to us for how to live a spiritual life. Also because what's really unique about the Sikh way is that for us, a spiritual path is intimately connected with a societal path. So what I mean by that is, in the Sikh way, if we say we're all one, and we say we're all connected, and we say that within us is that light of the divine, and within all of us is that light of the divine. But then when you face injustice, and all of a sudden, I'm not compelled to help you, then where was that oneness? The oneness is empty unless it is paired with a feeling of love and empathy for all humanity, for all beings. And then that feeling of love and empathy must compel us to then fight injustice, to fight for the upliftment of all people, to fight to build a better world, to fight for the upliftment of all beings.
Where do you think this sympathy, या फिर जो oneness, या the love for everybody, when they don't have it, when there's injustice, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿੱਥੋਂ ਆਏਗੀ? Is that what Sikhi gonna give us? Because it's not just some materialistic thing. It's not something that an entity that we can just grab it. Or there's love, I can grab it. How do you think? ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ? How can person who don't have these can have them himself?
Well, this is really the point of the Sikh way. The new paradigm of the Sikh way is this. The Sikh way is a transformative path. It's a path that you walk is supposed to make you more compassionate, more loving, more empathetic, more caring. And because it's focused on our oneness and our connection with one another, the Sikh path aims to make us realize that within us is everything we seek. Within us is infinity. Within us is savalak. Within us is chardikala. Within us is all the contentment, joy, and peace we seek externally is actually can be found internally. So the Sikh way is a transformative path that when you walk is meant to make you more compassionate, more loving, and more caring. And the new paradigm of the Sikh way is that when you become more loving and more connected to one another, you're then compelled to fight for the upliftment of all humanity. And that is the Sikh mission. So we transform ourselves in the Sikh path. We walk this path to become more compassionate, to become more loving. And by doing so, we then become compelled to fight for the benefit and upliftment of others.
Yeah.
But then in that way, we recognize that we must become better to carry out our mission better. So I'm getting a little bit...
No, you good.
I'm going to try this one more time, just to break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'll say it like this. The goal of the Sikh path is to recognize that we're all one. We're all connected. When you recognize that we're all one and connected, you're then compelled to fight for the upliftment of all humanity.
Yeah.
But if you're truly focused on uplifting all of humanity, then you recognize that you must be your best to serve humanity. And the Sikh way not only fosters this sense of oneness and compels us to fight for the upliftment of humanity, it also transforms us. And it transforms us to become more compassionate, more loving, and also better human beings, more resilient. We learn to tap into that infinity which is within us and all beings. And when you do that, you recognize that there's nothing you can't do, but not for personal benefit, not for material gain, but to carry out our mission better.
Yeah.
So throughout this discussion today, you're going to hear me say a few things about how the Sikh way can transform us, to make us more resilient, to make us recognize that within us is everything we need, to make us limitless. But it's not for the pursuit of material gain. It's not for the pursuit of fame. It's not for the pursuit of selfish reasons. It's to carry out our mission. And our mission is a very unique one. It's for the benefit of not just Sikhs, but the benefit of all beings, of all humanity, sarbata palla, for the betterment of all.
But that's amazing to know, and so enlightened. I'm here to this thing. Only thing you can achieve those elements, sympathy, faith, kindness, it's not only from getting something. Even if you like go through that path, go through that way of life, and it's so beautiful that you will have those you have to actually walk that path to actually get those things. And like Soni Gala, because it takes so much time to understand these things, and my conversation right now, I have so many questions that I'm gonna ask you.
But just to add to your point though,
it's
to understand so many things, but also to understand ourselves. Because
internally,
because the point is, if we are walking down this spiritual path of growth, of development, to foster this idea of oneness, that we're all connected, and because of this oneness, we're compelled to fight for the upliftment of all humanity, then in that process, you must start reflecting on how we are connected with one another. You start focusing on the nature of our own relationship with the divine. To get closer to the divine is also to recognize the falseness of our ego.
Yeah.
To recognize the barriers of the 5 thieves to spirituality is to recognize that to become more spiritual is to contemplate your life and your values and recognize, am I becoming a more spiritual person? Am I becoming someone who's more focused on seva and simran? Or am I becoming someone who is more selfish? The spiritual path is one that should push us to become more loving. And to become more loving, we need to be thoughtful. We need to be reflective. We need to start thinking, am I becoming someone who's getting closer to spirituality or further from spirituality? Am I becoming a more conscious human being or more selfish human being?
Yeah.
And so that's the process.
Yeah, when you said the 5 thieves, why do you say they are thieves? Kyun aapa, like, if I say they are the 5 tat hai, jis to sadi human body bandi hai, sada manukhi sharir 5 tatthana chalda hai, we know, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Hankar. Why do you think they are thief? Why do you consider them as thief of our internal self?
So there's going to be 3 ways in which I look at the 5 thieves. So the first is, in the Sikh way, we say that there are 5 thieves of spirituality. Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, and Hankar. Anger, lust, greed, attachment, and egotistical pride. We say that they're thieves because they rob from us. So lust robs from us control of where we want to take our lives, what we prioritize. Lust is like something that just consumes every aspect of your direction, of where you're taking your life. Anger robs from us peace, because when there's anger, there's nothing but discontent. Greed robs from us contentment, because we can never find contentment when we're running from one desire to the next, to the next. It's like a hole that can never be filled. Attachment robs from us freedom because we become bound down by the people and things that we're attached to. And egotistical pride robs from us the ability to grow, because when we think we're better than others, then we're unable to grow. We're unable to understand the knowledge that we can learn from those around us and from others. This is why there are 5 thieves. But now there's another way I want us to look at this. In the Sikh way, the 5 thieves of spirituality, lust, anger, greed, attachment, and egotistical pride, are also described as the 5 wrestlers. And there's this beautiful line of divine poetry in the Sikh way where they describe how someone has defeated these 5 wrestlers. And it's a really interesting metaphor, because in wrestling, you defeat your opponent by controlling them, by pinning them down, not by killing them. So let's look at this. When you control lust, it becomes passion. And you need passion in your life. You need passion in a relationship. You need passion to drive you. You need passion to give your life richness and to give your life light.
To do anything good, you need compassion.
You need passion. When you control anger, it becomes determination. And you need determination to fight against injustice, to fight for the betterment of others, to protect yourself, to protect your families, to protect your communities. Greed, when it is controlled, becomes aspiration, because you must aspire to better yourself. You must aspire to provide for your family and your friends and your community and those around you. You must aspire to build a better world. Attachment, when it's controlled, becomes affection. The affection a mother has for their child, or the affection within a family, or the affection you have for those around you, or the affection you have for the living world. And pride, when it is controlled, becomes dignity. So you hold your head high, you hold yourself with respect, and you make sure that no one is able to unjustly tread on you. No one is able to unjustly demean you. You hold that self-respect.
It's so great when we have these 5 thieves to be directed in the right direction. They can bring such changes, and such those 5 things you have transformed into such big 5 words that can change their life.
This is how it was shared to me. And I found it very profound based on this. It was in a Gurbani discussion where someone shared this with me. And there's another thing that I often think about as well, though. The 5 thieves are also described as the 5 enemies.
Okay.
And the 5 enemies is interesting because, to me, when I live my life now day to day, I recognize that when I have a moment of anger, where I yell out, like we all do, I start to frame it differently, where I start to understand that in that moment, I now lost that battle with anger. I now start to look at these 5 enemies, lust, anger, greed, attachment, and egotistical pride, as battles that I'm happening, as battles that are occurring in every single moment of my life. So when I lose a battle to lust, and my wants just and my cravings control me and take me over, that means I've lost that fight. When I yell out and I scream and I get annoyed or angry, I've lost that battle with anger. When I am so discontent because I'm running from one desire to the next, I've lost that battle with greed. When I'm feeling so attached and debilitated in my connection to the things and people around me, I've lost that battle with attachment. When I can't learn from others because I think I'm better than them or smarter than them, then I've lost that battle with egotistical pride. And as I initially said, but just to reframe it, when I allow my cravings to take over the direction of my life, I've lost that battle with lust. So I start looking now at these battles that I'm engaging with day to day as moments for me to do a righteous battle, to actually win and not just continually lose and let these 5 enemies conquer me and dominate me.
And that's really amazing when you have your life ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਗ੍ਰਹਿ ਗ੍ਰਸਤੀ ਦਾ ਜੀਵਨ ਆ, when you actually link it with a spiritual journey, we know we have these elements, but ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਨੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਇਆ ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਤੱਥਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੀ ਮਹੱਤਤਾ ਆ and how they can destroy you, and when you link your journey, your internal journey with the spiritual journey, and it turns out you to be to make you such a beautiful human being. But what I really sometimes, even मैं ਜਦੋਂ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜਾਨਾ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਚੱਲਦਾ like when I bow my, like ਮੈਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੱਥਾ ਟੇਕਦਾ, what is actually God? What is the understanding of God according to you? Because certainly when people talk about God, they like it is formless, like how we say in Sikhi, Nirankar. There is no form of God. It's the energy that created everything. But what actually God is in Sikhi? What Sikhi says, कौन है जिसने सानू बनाया है? What actually do you think God is according to your knowledge?
So I'll approach this question with two ways. The first is I'll give my just own understanding of, as I live my life, how I understand and how I recognize the divine. And then I think it's a good opportunity to look at the Mool Mantra, which is also known as the Mangalacharan. So my understanding in the Sikh way is, for us, we have a very unique perspective of the divine. In the Sikh way, God isn't this guy in the sky with a long white beard. For us, the connection that we feel with one another, the love I feel for my wife, my kids, the love I feel for my community, for others, it gives me a glimpse into what the divine is. The Sikh way is unique because for us, God isn't a guy in the sky with a long white flowing beard. The divine is this oneness that connects us all. In the Sikh way, we actually take it a step further and we say that there is only the divine. There is only one. And we're hoping to understand and recognize this oneness. And it's such a powerful way of looking at the world because it allows us to then recognize that even as I sit here now and I look over at you, I'm one with you. This is the first time we're meeting physically.
Yeah.
And the Sikh way tells me that despite that, the love that I have for my children is the same love that I should have for you. The love that I have for my brother is the same love I should have for you. And all humanity and all living beings. Because the divine light that is within me is the same divine light that is within you.
Yeah.
And that is the truth of reality. And this is what is very fundamentally unique of the Sikh way, is this profound way in which we look at the world, connected by this oneness. And when we recognize this oneness, it then pushes us towards recognizing and understanding that now if you face injustice, in the same way that I would feel compelled to run and help my children when they are in any sense of pain, the same way I feel compelled to help my mother, my wife, my brother when they are feeling any sort of injustice or just tough times, the Sikh way tells me that that's the same love that I should have for you or for strangers or for people I've never met in my life, because we are all one. And this is the foundation for our really revolutionary belief in social justice. It's founded on the sense that if you are one with all humanity, if you're one with all beings, if you're one with all, then any injustice anywhere in the world impacts you directly. And you become compelled to fight against that injustice. And this is a unique perspective as well, because often people can accuse others who do some sort of social service because they want to increase their name or increase the praise they receive. They may do it for egotistical reasons. In the Sikh way, if the foundation of oneness is the reason why you're working to uplift humanity, then when you work to serve humanity, it's not an act of ego. It's an act of pure love. If you're injured and you work to cover a wound, it's not a great act of it's not a great act of altruism.
Yeah.
It's not a great, powerful act that you've done if you put a Band-Aid on a cut on your arm. You're just taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
It's not an act of ego. It's self-preservation.
Yeah.
But imagine you looked at the pain of others as pain that you're experiencing.
Then you put a bandage on somebody else.
But it's not, you put a Band-Aid on someone else,
Yeah.
but it's not compelled by ego. It's the same way you would just naturally want to take care of yourself is the same way that you would naturally take care of another person. Whenever you breathe,
Yeah.
you're saving your life, right? Like you can't not breathe. You need to breathe
Yeah.
to survive. What if helping others was as natural as your breath?
Yeah.
That is what to me, that is how we hope to help humanity, is to make the service of humanity, because it's fostered by this deep understanding of our oneness, as natural as we would, as if we were breathing. Acts of service become as natural as that.
And you have articulated it so beautifully. Even if I say it's crafted in Gurbani even so beautifully that there should be no efforts to help anybody. You should not be having pride that I saved a life or I saved someone from doing something bad. It should just like a way of life. You're doing those things.
Helping others. If oneness is the foundation and win-win, if oneness is the foundation for what inspires you to serve the world, to serve humanity, to serve all beings, then serving others becomes as natural as breathing.
So do you feel when even you say there's divine in you, divine in me, it is formless, there is it's not sitting someplace in the sky, ਕਿਤੇ ਉਹ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਤਾਜ ਪਹਿਨ ਕੇ ਜਾਂ ਦਾੜੀ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਮਹਿਲ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੈਠੇ. How do you feel ਜਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਓਂਕਾਰ, God is one? How do you feel that ਇਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਿੱਖ daily life 'ਚ God is one? What is the actual impact of it? If we start with the mool mantra, Ik Onkar, how do you think about that?
So it's really interesting because Ik Onkar is not just saying God is one. Ik Onkar is saying there is only one. So just to take back a little bit on, sometimes people, in my opinion, inaccurately describe the Sikh way as monotheistic. Monotheistic means that there's, like, you take a list of 5 different gods, like Zeus, Apollo, Jupiter and Thor, and you say, they're all fake and Thor is the only real God. That's what monotheism is saying. In Sikhi, we're saying that everything is one. And so when we go through the Mool Mantra, the Mangala Charan, the Sikh way describes to us the qualities of the divine through the Mool Mantra or the Mangala Charan. But what's really interesting is that when we look at the goal of the Sikh way, it's to understand that within us is also the divine, that we hope to merge and recognize that all is the divine. So when we read the Mool Mantra, we're seeing the qualities of the divine, but we're also seeing characteristics that we hope to internalize. So if we go through them, we can see what are these characteristics. So the Mool Mantra describes the divine, but in the Sikh way, we hope to become like the divine, because within us is a piece of that divine that we hope to understand and recognize and merge with. So when we look at the Mool Mantra, we're also looking at qualities that we hope to internalize. So Ik Onkar is defined as, or Ik Onkar means there's only one.
I loved it when you said, like, God is one. No, there is only one God.
Not that there's only one God, there is only one.
There is only one.
That's the difference, because there is only one God is to say that some gods
there's different.
There's some gods are false and there's one true God. In Sikhi, we're saying all is false and there's only one truth.
There is only one truth.
Which is Ik Onkar, which is this oneness that connects us all.
I never heard this thing like ever. It just have, like, sochan ch paata hai cheez nahi. There is only one.
There is only one. Ik Onkar is saying there's only one. So I'll list these now. I'll go through it and then we can go through each of them one by one. But just to make sure that I'm contextualizing it properly. In the Sikh path, in the Sikh way, in the Sri Gurratan Singh, which is our spiritual guru, it lays out in the opening, the invocation, the Mool Mantra or the Mangala Charan, which is the opening of the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, which lays out the descriptions of the divine. But these are descriptions of the divine that we hope to also internalize, because in the Sikh way, our spiritual goal is to merge with this oneness. So when we read these qualities, these are qualities that we too hope to internalize and adopt. And I think along the spiritual path and along the spiritual journey, we begin to slowly adopt aspects of this. So we begin to become more and more like the divine the more we walk on the spiritual path. So what are these qualities in the Sikh way that we hope to internalize to make us become closer and closer to the divine? Ik Onkar means there is only one. So to internalize this idea means to recognize that all humanity is connected. All beings are connected. We are one with this entire universe. It is the foundation for why we believe in social justice. It is the foundation for why we believe in fighting for more justice across this world. It is the foundation for why we reject the caste system, why we reject the oppression of women. It is the foundation for why we feel compelled to fight injustice, because we are all one. Satanam means, Sat means true or eternal, and Nam is identity. So this true or eternal identity. To internalize this, to me, means how do we connect ourselves to eternal principles? So these are principles that I believe will always be true. like compassion, like justice, like equality. Be it hundreds of years in the past, or 100 years, or many hundreds of years in the future. Justice, equality, compassion, love. These are ideas that are above the fads. These are core eternal principles that we should be adopting in our lives. Karta Purkh is a really powerful idea. It's to say that the divine is the ultimate creator, the creator of all things, the doer of everything everywhere. So for us to internalize this is to recognize that we must be creative beings. And I think this also means beings that are inspired by art and poetry and music. We must be creative individuals. We must express that aspect of ourselves. But it's also to say that when we are dealing with problems in our life, are we taking a creative approach? Are we being individuals who are just using the traditional, head-on approach to problems that we're facing? Or are we being individuals who are inspired by something greater? Are we thinking outside of the box? Are we implementing all the tools available to us to address problems that exist? So to me, Karta Purkh means it's a quality of the divine, which means the divine is the creator of all, the doer of all things. To internalize Karta Purkh is to recognize that we must be creative beings, but also find creative ways to approach our life, to think outside the box, to bring that creative energy to problem solving, but also, I think, to be creative in the sense that to be poets, to be musicians, to be creators of new ideas, of thought, of poetry, and more. Nirapao means without fear. For us to internalize without fear, Nirapao is to say, we must live a life that is fearless. And think of how much of your life is controlled by fear. Think of how often the fear of failure, the fear of being wrong, the fear of what other people will say hold you back. In the Sikh way, we hope to rid ourselves of that fear. And when you rid yourself of that fear, you become free. You're no longer bound down by fear. And you can live a life where you are true to yourself and you're true to following that passion, those goals that you have, because you're no longer bound out by fear. So Nirvad means there is no enemy. And to internalize Nirvad means even those who we dislike, we must recognize are one with us. And I think there's a profoundly different way of looking at the world when you no longer see yourself as us against them. You no longer see yourself against enemies. Instead, you're seeing yourself against injustice. You have a problem with systems, but you love all beings.
That's beautiful.
So we have Onkar, Satnam, Karta Purkh, Nirpo, Nirvair, Akal Murat. Akal Murat means the timeless, that the divine is timeless. The divine is a being, a timeless being. So Akal Murat means the divine is timeless. And for us to internalize Akal Murat means to recognize that we ourselves are timeless as well. And I think when you look at the world from a perspective to say that we've come on this earth, we've left, and we'll come again. We've done this countless times. We are timeless beings. You no longer are afraid of the greatest fear, the primordial fear, which is death. When you conquer that most basic fear, which is of death, and you recognize that you're timeless, it frees you, I think, in a very profound way, because that fear of death holds us and limits us. And when you're timeless, you realize you're infinite. So you are able to live your life in a way where you're not bound down by the limits of what we think our life is, but we recognize that our true nature is infinite and there's so much more that we can achieve. Ajuni means beyond. The divine is beyond the cycle of birth and death. And to internalize Ajuni, the definition of Ajuni, which is a quality of the divine, is beyond the cycle of birth and death, beyond Junes, right? Which means beyond lives. To internalize Ajuni, to me, means we are not bound by what we think are the limitations of our form. We're not bound down by what people think we're able to do because of how we look or who we are or their preconceived notions of us, of the preconceived notions that others have upon us. To be a Juni is to say that you're able to live a life beyond the expectations of others or what society thinks that you're limited by. To be a Juni is to be not bound down by anything. You're beyond and above those preconceived notions that people have upon you based on your form and who you are. And Sapang is a really beautiful idea. It means you're self-illuminated. So Sapang means the divine is self-illuminated. So to internalize Sapang means, how do we become self-moving beings? How do we become beings who are motivated and push forward because of their connection to the one, not because of the opinions or thoughts or ideas of others? Instead, Sapang is to say we are the originators of original thoughts and ideas, the creation of new knowledge and wisdom. We become the sources of inspiration. We are motivated by nothing other than the oneness that is within us and within all. And we're not held down and bound down by the perception and beliefs of others. And the last is Gur Prasad, so that these qualities of the divine are experienced through the grace of the Guru, through the grace of the divine. And I think for me, that is to say that all these really powerful ideas that we've described are ultimately achieved through humility, through the prasad of the Guru. So not through our own determination and not through our own motivation and ambition. No, you actually have to be humble. The first step is you must humble yourself before the divine. You must ask the divine for this grace. And then from that, we're able to adopt the qualities of the divine.
You know, when you were describing the whole thing, I was just so keen to listen, actually. And I got so much involved in it, and I didn't say a word. I didn't want to interrupt you, like, in between. And it is so much beautiful to see that those words, the words in the Gurbani, the small to small words, like, kinne sone words, and they have such a deep meaning.
Deep meaning.
And when we hear them, we never actually understand what they actually means. And when you describe, like you described it right now, a lot of those things, I feel like they're aligned with life and death. There is such a common factor of, or you can say there's such common thing, jehdi zindagi te maut di cheez hai, ye Gurbani jidda, when you were describing a juni, different, there inniyan 84 lakh juna to baad sanu ye manukh shreer milda hai. And to be, it is out of, it is timeless when you describe that. How do you see the life and death da jehda cycle a? How do you see Gurbani sanu is which guide kar diya? Because the fear of death is the biggest fear I feel in people. They want to do everything on themselves to keep them alive. And people karde hai, ye sab kuch hunda hai. And how do you feel that thing?
Yeah, the fear of death is, it's often described, and I believe it, it is the most foundational, primordial fear. So why do we fear the dark? We fear the dark because of danger, because there's a potential fear that there's something there that'll hurt us. The fear of deep water, like, you know, you're fearful of what lays underneath that water that can take your life. The fear of falling, the fear of anything, like the most primordial fear is the fear of death. So if you can conquer this most basic fear, the greatest of fears, then there's nothing that you can't conquer. You become free of any other fear because you've conquered that most fundamental fear. What else is there to fear if you no longer fear death? And Gurbani says this beautiful line within the Sikh way. There's this beautiful line in the Sikh way that says, Pehla maran kabul. The first thing you must accept is death. But there's a different frame for this because it's not talking about the death of ourselves. The death of ourselves is an illusion in the Sikh way. It's talking about the death of ego. Pehla maran kabul. We must first accept death and then give up hope. Give up hope what? Give up hope for what? This egotistical life. Pehla maran kabul is to say that if we want to walk this spiritual path, the first thing we must give up, the first thing we must accept rather, is death. That we must pursue the death of our ego in this path of oneness. And when we can give up the hope for an egotistical life and we can accept Pehla maran kabul, then we're able to live a truly free life because we've accepted that this other death, the physical death, is an illusionary death. The true death that I hope to achieve is the death of ego, because with the death of ego comes the understanding that we're all connected, we're all one.
And when you said Pehla Maran Kabul, and the other line is Jeevan ki chadas, that
Jeevan ki chadas.
And when I see this, do you think that fear of death in humans, ਕੋਈ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਡਰ ਕੱਢ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖੀ 'ਚ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਚੱਲੇ ਕਿ fear of death is not the biggest fear that you have. It's just the way you see that. How do you think like actually ਸਿੱਖੀ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੇ fear of death ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਇਆ ਆ ਕਿ this is not what you should be fear of. You should be fear of that, like you said, you should be fear of the egoistic attitude you have in yourself, and you should leave those hopes and aspirations from the life to ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ pride 'ਚੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ high ਹੋ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਾਕੀ ਕਾਸਟਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਹੋ. How do you think ਸਿੱਖੀ fear of death ਨੂੰ describe ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ?
Yeah, this is a great question, a great subject. And I'll start by actually giving a bit of context of how Sikhs actually understand the world, because that's actually how we understand how Sikhi eliminates the fear of death. The fear of death is actually rooted in the ego. And in the Sikh way, we say that the ego is the root of all pain. The ego is a disease that we actually need to work to eliminate. The reason why the fear of death is rooted in the ego, because the ego is completely focused on self-preservation. The ego doesn't want you to know that you're only here for but a blink of the eye, that you're here for a moment and then you're gone, on to the next journey. The ego makes us think that we're going to be here forever, and that the ego makes us think that the entire universe revolves around us.
Yeah.
In the Sikh way, we say that the ego is a rog, is a disease, and it limits us. It limits us because the ego makes us think in terms of me instead in terms of we, the oneness that connects us all. The ego prevents us from accessing the infinity that lays within us. When we recognize that within us is the divine, the oneness, the infinite, then we are limitless. We are limitless. There's nothing we can't achieve. So that is how we eliminate the fear of death, by going to war against the ego. In the Sikh way, also from the ego come the 5 thieves of spirituality: Kam, Krodh, Lo, Moh, Onkar. Lust, anger, greed, attachment, and egotistical pride. And that's why as Sikhs we must go to war continually against these 5 thieves. And the way we do this, the way we go to war against the 5 thieves, the way we go to war against the ego, is through walking this transformative Sikh way. By meditating on the fact that we're all connected, that we're all one, which is the antithesis, which is the exact opposite. Understanding we're all one is the exact opposite to the ego, which makes us think that we are only the center of everything.
Yeah.
When we understand that we're all one, we're all connected, that we are akal, that we are timeless, that we are part of this greater divinity, which is timeless. When we understand that we hope to merge with this oneness, which is described as a junni, which is beyond the cycle of life and birth. And we internalize this idea to recognize that we too are not bound by the forms that we are in. We're not bound down by the perceptions and limitations that people think we have because of our background or who we are. We become beyond the limitations of our form. Then we are able to recognize that we are beings that have no fear of death, because death is but an illusion. In the Sikh way, it's a beautiful way of looking at the world. In Khalsai Boli, and I know we'll talk about it later on, but I'll share it because it's in the conversation now, is in Sikhi, the Sikh way of saying someone has died is that person, they'll say, Onu chadai kar gaya.
Yeah.
They've gone to the next journey. That's how we as Sikhs look at this world. This is how we look at this time we have on this earth. It's just a journey. And when we go, there's no true death.
Yeah.
We're just going on to the next journey. And that's how a Sikh will describe this experience of death. Not that they're gone, but instead that chadai kar gaya, that they have gone to this next journey.
Another journey, another universe. It's so beautiful when we have these terms or we have these words in Sikhi. Like chadai kar gaya, कि वो मरिया नहीं है, वो सिर्फ एक अपनी अलग यात्रा ते चला गया है, अलग जर्नी ते चला गया है. Do you feel, because मैं काफ़ी religions च देखिया भी है, and it is also a practice in many of the religions that having death or asking for death is like a part of their, how can I put that in words, like they want the death to be a certain reward from the God so that they can meet the God, so that their lives could be better to going to God, to just ਰੱਬ ਤੱਕ ਜਾਣ ਲਈ ਉਹ ਡੈਥ ਨੂੰ ਮੰਗਦੇ ਆ, ਬਟ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ the life that God has just given us right now is more beautiful than what they're asking for.
That's a really important question, and it's a very unique way in which the Sikh path looks at life. So many religions are focused on live a good life now, not for the principle of just being good, but because you'll get rewarded. After you die, you'll get rewarded with some sort of eternal paradise. So you get rewarded with some sort of heaven.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's very disingenuous. And the good actions they're doing is not actually because they want to do good. It could be just because they want the reward of eternal paradise.
Yeah.
The Sikh way is completely different in that we are not very focused on what happens after we die. We are far more focused on how we live our life now. And true good actions come when they are founded on the principle and experience of our oneness. When you begin to truly understand that we're all one, that your pain is my pain, then you're compelled to help and uplift those around you. You're then compelled to help better this world, to fight, to protect nature, to fight to protect this earth and more. You're compelled to do this not because you want reward later on. You're compelled to do this because you're inspired to help people, because you recognize that the pain others feel is pain that you yourself are experiencing. Yeah. This is the unique way in which the Sikh path, the Sikh way looks at this world.
It's so beautiful to like actually know that what you have life right now, jo ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਹੈ, that is far more beautiful thing that the God has given to you, and you're expecting something that is just like illusion. That's you don't even know if it's gonna be there or no. So you're doing good things just to ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚੰਗਾ ਇਸ ਲਈ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ because ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਰੱਬ ਤੋਂ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਮੰਗ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ you are being selfish. Even if you're doing something good, but you still have that selfishness in that, and it kind of destroy your spiritual journey with God, because in your internal self you feel like I am so much with God, I am doing good things, I'm going to Gurdwara daily, I'm going to temple, but in your own self you know that you're doing this to just make him happy so that you can have better life afterwards.
And this is what's so interesting about the Sikh way. The Sikh way is meant to be a transformative path, that you actually need to do that hard work of becoming a better person. You need to do that hard work of fighting your ego. You need to do that hard work of battling the 5 enemies. And as you go down that spiritual path, you then can understand the oneness that we're all connected by. They say there's this very powerful line attributed to the 10th Guru. There's this very powerful line said by our 10th Guru. He said, when I make sparrows battle hawks, when I turn lambs into lions, when I uplift the oppressed, when I make one fight 125,000 others, then you can call me Gobind Singh. And what our 10th Guru is laying out is a path of transformation. For a sparrow to be able to battle a hawk, they must become transformed and imbued with strength and courage and more. For lambs to become lions, they must become from timid beings to courageous beings. To uplift the oppressed, we must bring those who have been downtrodden and let them know that they too are powerful beings that should not be subjected to this kind of oppression. For one to fight 125,000 others, they must be filled with so much strength and spiritual, inspired determination that they can do things that we think are incapable by regular beings. But this is the promise of the Sikh way. It is not to say follow these rules now and you will achieve this courage and happiness later on after you die. It's to say, follow this spiritual journey now, and you will then have a path laid out to you that will transform you. Inspired by our oneness, inspired by the fact that within you is everything you seek, you will become a more resilient being. You'll become a more powerful being. You'll become a more caring and loving being, not just for your own personal pursuit, but to carry out the mission of the Sikh way, which is the upliftment of all beings, the upliftment of all humanity.
And when you said the line by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, I'll translate to viewers in Punjabi. चिड़ियों से मैं बाज लड़ावा, गिद्दरा तो मैं शेर बनावा, 1.25 लाख तो एक लड़ावा, तबै गोबिंद सिंह नाम कहावा. It's so beautiful that the way you said that, the strength that you need is what Sikhi gives us to remove the fear of death. And how you actually see when I say this strength to actually fight 125,000 people, to fight with lions, knowing that you not strong as them. Do you think this strength comes from Sikhi?
Yes, this is the focus of the Sikh way is, and this is what is also very unique about the Sikh way. We focus so little on what happens after we die, as opposed to how much we focus on how do we live a good life now. How do we live a life that is inspired by this oneness? How do we live a life that is one which is inspired by love and courage and allows us to adopt the Sikh principles? And what's also really beautiful, like earlier when I was describing the Mool Mantra, which lays out the qualities of the divine, when you actually look at what those qualities are describing, when we internalize them, it's actually the epitome of freedom. Someone who is fearless, someone who is without enemies, someone who's not bound down, someone who's not bound down by time, someone who's without form, someone who is self-illuminated, a self-moving being. All of these are actually describing this amazing ideal state of freedom. Because when you're not bound down by fear or time or enemies, when you are a creative being that is self-moving and self-illuminated, when you are beyond forms, when you're not bound down by the perceptions of others, you're really describing this ideal state of freedom. And that's another incredibly great focus. That's another focus of the Sikh way. It's how do we free people? How do we free them from the caste system? How do we free people from superstition? How do we free ourselves from the ego? Because these are all limiting factors that hold us down, that prevent us from understanding our true nature, that within us is the divinity, the limitless infinite that we hope to connect with and understand. So the Mool Mantra is not just describing the qualities of the divine. It's not just describing qualities that we hope to internalize in our spiritual journey to merge with the divine. It's also describing this ideal state of freedom that we can all achieve if we walk this spiritual path.
And when you were saying this, something clicked in mind. There's so many of things that as we have in our culture that I think they are also in Sikh world somewhere in little bit of parts. Jemekama, there are in some religions I have said there's so many superstitions that you have to actually do. If you want to like make God happy, you should do this. If you want to have the joy and the pleasure of the blessings of the God, you should do this thing at this particular period of time and this many days and this after this much, like doing such efforts to make somebody happy, or even like so many other things. Caste system ajira, like how much it is that destroyed the society and the effect that it still has on so many of people in such areas. In India, if I say, how do you think these things has to do with Sikhi and how Sikhi deals with these evils of the society that we have right now or in nowadays? People are, because if still Sikhi is here, still people are struggling with this, and still there's like so much of things going around it that people can't get out of these evils.
It's a really important point. And we actually look at the purpose of the Sikh way. It is that dual function. The purpose of the Sikh way the Sikh mission is a path of spiritual enlightenment and pursuit of contentment and joy and peace. But simultaneously, it's saying that inspired by that contentment that is achieved when we understand we're all one and connected, we are then compelled to fight and uplift others. And because we understand the foundational belief is that we're all one, fundamentally the Sikh spirituality, the Sikh way, is against the caste system. Because the foundation of the Sikh way is the belief that we're all one and connected, it is the foundation for why the Sikh way has always been against all forms of oppression, of discrimination, and more, be it the oppression of women or the oppression of people in the caste system. The caste system is one of the most evil systems of oppression that exists within the world. It is a system to say that just because you are born a low caste, you are forever consigned to a life of oppression, of degradation, of being perceived and understood as both societally and spiritually lower than others. And when you look at the caste system, it is such a brutal system. To this day, people are murdered. They terrible accounts of sexual exploitation and sexual abuse. They are outcasted from society purely because of the household that they were born in. It is one of the greatest injustices. And the Sikh way was developed to say that this form of caste system is a complete injustice that must be eradicated. Foundational to the Sikh way is to fight the injustice of the caste system. And one of the most beautiful ways that we fight the caste system in the Sikh way is through the experience of langar. So anytime you have a Sikh function, a part of that function is there's the spiritual component, but then afterwards there is the experience of eating langar. And at the end of any Sikh function, they'll always say, langar shak ke jao. That before you leave, you must eat langar. And there's two components to that. Yes, there's an active belief in the Sikh spirituality that we must feed others. And because if we're all one, we're all connected, the hunger that someone else experiences is hunger that we all experience.
It's like naam jopo and vand ke shako.
Vand ke shako, exactly. But there's another function of the system of langar, and it's actually to eradicate the caste system. The rules of the caste system are guided by these rules of purity. So a lower caste can't eat at the same place of a higher caste, or a higher caste can't eat from a lower caste, and lower caste people are often forced to take water from a separate well or eat from separate plates. The Sikh spirituality completely rejects that idea. And what they did is through the system of langar, they directly fought against it. Because in langar, the process of langar is not just about eating food. There's actually a process where the food should be made collectively by the community. It doesn't matter what your background is. Whether you are perceived as high caste or low caste, you're supposed to be together making that food. Because the Sikh spiritual path rejects the caste system. Secondly, you're supposed to sit and then be served. In a world that is guided by so much discrimination around the caste system, you would have a high caste person being seated and being served by a low caste person. Then that low caste person would be seated and then served by a high caste system. This was actually a societal revolutionary practice to start to break down and tear down the caste system. And so anytime you actually eat langar, you should do it in this system where you should sit, be served, and then after you're done eating, go and serve others. And in doing so, you're actually actively breaking down this system of stratification, of oppression that holds back countless individuals in this fake and false sense that they are less than simply because of the household that they're brought in.
And like there's many,
because of the household that they're born in.
They're born in, and they can do nothing about it.
There's
nothing that they can do about it because they are born in a family, and it's been like this for generations in Indian
millennia.
culture.
It's been like this for millennia. The caste system is the oldest form of oppressive. The caste system, it has been like this for millennia. The caste system has existed for millennia, and it is the oldest system of an oppressive, stratified social order that subjugates people to great injustice purely because of the home that they are born into. And the Sikh spirituality, founded in this revolutionary belief in oneness, wants to tear down this caste system. And the way we tear it down is through the system of langar. That's one of the ways in which we tear it down, in which all these systems of purity that are supposed to control people based on the caste system, who can eat where and what can eat, what individual or what caste can eat from which plate, or the fact that certain castes can only drink from certain wells, or all these rules that are meant to divide people, the langar system totally destroys it because it takes this caste system and it breaks every one of those rules. And a high caste person will be served by a low caste person, and a low caste person will then be served by a high class person, a high caste person. And the end result is recognizing that these rules and this social stratification is a lie, and that it is something that we must work to tear down. And that's why the langar system initially must have been perceived as a really disruptive factor. People must have looked at the langar system initially and been offended by the fact that they're allowing low caste people to sit beside high caste people. This is completely against all our rules of purity. And the Sikh system said, yes, we will break these rules of purity because we reject this unjust system of caste system, which is oppressing countless people purely because of the home that they're born in.
As you were saying about the caste system oppression, and it is so much that evil, and there's people who are suffering from it from millennia, and you can't do anything about it because you're born into a family, into a certain caste. And they're same with the caste system. I remember in my school when we had the moral education subject, I got to know the sati pratha, if you ever have heard about it, that the woman is burnt alive with her man's body to just, and it when I got to know about this, and I was so much devastated that what have been the lives of those women who have just burnt alive, and there's nothing that they can do. And when Shri Guru Amar Das ji came and unhone kiya ki sati pratha band honi chahiye, and I feel like that was the first feminist move somebody from that time ever made to actually stop these oppressions. And same as when Guru Nanak Dev ji started the langar, he said, oh, sare jane ikatthe baith ke vand ke shakenge. How do you think these systems or these beliefs have transformed Sikhi, or Sikhi has transformed us in the modern days of life? Because now these oppressions do exist, but they are in very few number, in less numbers. But do you think still Sikhi is kind of transforming these oppressions to make us a better person or live a better life?
Well, I'll say this. Throughout the Sikh way, there is a focus on this eternal struggle. So we say in the Sikh way, there's this powerful line of poetry from our 10th Guru that says, in the might of battle, may I die struggling. Not victorious, but struggling. And this is to say that the destination is not where we end up. The destination is actually the journey.
Yeah.
And we must get connected to the process, fall in love with the process. We must commit ourselves to the struggle of fighting our ego, of fighting the 5 thieves, of working to improve ourselves spiritually, but also the struggle against injustice. And that this battle against the oppression of women or the oppression of the caste system, these aren't battles that are going to go away. Our gurus work to tear down these systems, but they come back. And despite the fact that, for example, the practice of sati is something that has been the cases are far more rare
no one
now.
has talked about women in any of the religions, actually.
Yeah, and this focus on the upliftment of women is very unique to the Sikh way, definitely. But the rejection of sati, yes, okay, there's fewer cases of sati, but in Sikhi, it wasn't just about stopping one practice. It was about fighting against every single practice of oppression towards women, towards lower caste, towards whoever it is. And so we must commit ourselves to the struggle. That jujana is this idea of the struggle, which we must apply to our personal spiritual path, to the focus on the process as opposed to the outcome, but also recognize that in our commitment to fighting injustice, that too is a struggle that we must never give up. So there's this powerful line that says, Khalsa soy jo kare nit jang. The Khalsa is that one who is engaged in eternal struggle. The eternal struggle is something that we must now commit ourselves to. It's an internal struggle against the ego. It's an eternal struggle against the 5 enemies. It's an eternal struggle to improve ourselves, to become more conscious spiritual beings. But it's also an eternal struggle to bring justice to this world. And we must never give up the fight for justice. We can't say that, yes, because some practices that were oppressive to women have been reduced, like sati, that all of a sudden this battle's over. No, it's not just about stopping this oppressive action of sati. When the Gurus asked or commanded the end to sati, it wasn't just about women who were being burnt on funeral pyres. It was about women being oppressed.
Yeah.
So the struggle that we must continually engage ourselves in, both spiritually and societally, is the struggle internally to fight to recognize our oneness, and then externally is to fight for the upliftment of all beings, including the fight we must take against the caste system.
And it's so beautifully you articulated the line you said, Khalsa soe jo kare nit jang.
Exactly.
And
soy jo kare nit jang.
but with this, it also comes another thing in my mind. The Gurbani says, Sokyo manda akhiye jit jamme rajan.
Exactly.
Like, why do you say bad to a woman who has given birth to the kings? How do you feel when I go through when we dive deep into the Gurbani? Ithe inna sara kuch sadi life ਨਾਲ related, ਸਾਡੇ society oppressions, ਚਾਹੇ systems ਹੈ, injustice ਹੈ. There's so much of things about every evil aspect in the Gurbani. It has been articulated in such a beautiful way. Do you think when Guru Sahibana ne ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਸਿਰਜਿਆ, and there was another whole period of time, and that was like 17th, 16th, 15th, 14th century, how do you think it is still powerful in today's world, and how it is still relevant to our lives?
It's a very, very important question, and it's something I talk about a lot. And I think when we look at Gurbani, there are so many. So let's start off by saying this. The Sikh mission, let's zoom back a little bit. The purpose of the Sikh way is to recognize we're all one and we're all connected. And inspired by that oneness, we then work for the upliftment of all beings. It's a transformative path that when we walk, we ourselves are meant to become more loving and compassionate beings, because in the process of battling the ego, we recognize that within us is infinity, and we start to be able to tap into our true nature, that eternal true nature that is within us. And we start to get to access the love and hope and joy that is within us. That we don't have to seek externally, we can access internally.
Yeah.
When we talk about engaging with the teachings of the Sikh way, it is meant to be a process in which we read this divine poetry and we try to implement it and internalize it in our lives. So what are the lessons that we can learn and apply from those teachings to help us better live our life today?
Yeah.
And there's a variety. There's so many lessons, and these are just a few that I've been thinking about that are very inspiring. So one is, in the Sikh way, we revere uncertainty. In the Sikh way, we revere the unknown, which is incredibly unique, because generally with the unknown, you fear it. We fear what we don't understand. We fear the dark because we don't know what lays hidden.
Yeah.
We fear the dark or deep waters because we don't know what lays hidden beneath. But in the Sikh way, we describe the highest of high, the divine that we hope to connect with a variety of characteristics. But we also define this oneness as indescribable. We define the oneness in a variety of ways, including loving and just and more. But we also describe this oneness as indescribable, as akat.
Akat.
Something that is beyond words, something that is beyond description. And generally, when you experience something that is beyond words or beyond description, it can be a frustrating experience. You don't know what's going on. Uncertainty is founded in the unknown, because when we don't know the truth of something, we don't know its outcome. So there's uncertainty there.
Yeah.
And we generally feel frustration or insecurity or doubt when we're experiencing something we don't know or are uncertain of. But in the Sikh way, we describe the divine that we hope to connect with as indescribable, as akat. And this is a word of awe, of reverence. Now, imagine your life if you started to experience moments where there's something you didn't know or you're uncertain with, not as a moment to be frustrated with, but as a profound moment, as a moment to take back and revere. You would no longer look at uncertain or unknown moments as a moment to be frustrated, but instead as an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become better. This is the unique way in which the Sikh way encourages us to look at the world.
I loved it when you said the indescribable nature with the divine. ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਜੋ ਅਕਥ ਆ ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਡਿਸਕ੍ਰਾਈਬ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਜੋ ਫਾਰਮਲੈਸ ਆ, ਟਾਈਮਲੈਸ ਆ, ਮਨੁੱਖੀ ਜਾਮੇ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਆ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਾਂ ਇਸ ਮਨੁੱਖੀ ਜਾਮੇ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਜੋ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਖੁਦ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ 'ਚ ਇੰਨਾ ਬਿਜ਼ੀ ਹਾਂ, ਹਾਊ difficult would that be for me to actually connect with that indescribable nature of the divine? Isn't that the biggest difficulty to connect with the God actually, because he's indescribable, he's akat. So this is now biggest challenge for me.
It's really beautiful what you're describing, because what you're describing is like a bit of a riddle.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we get to this solution? Yeah. In the Sikh way, they often present lessons to learn in the form of a riddle. So throughout the Sikh way, the teachings of the Sikh way, the Sikh way will often employ this idea of what is referred to as a mandavani. So in the Sikh way, we are often asked to solve riddles, which are referred to as a mandavani. And it's a really unique way in which the Sikh way asks us to engage on the spiritual path. So the Sikh way has principles of justice, of equality, of oneness. And the Sikh way is very clear on those principles.
Yeah.
But when it comes to deeper, more nuanced questions around how do we battle the ego? How do we conquer the 5 thieves? How do we live within the world while also being detached from the world? The Sikh way doesn't spoon feed us answers. The Sikh way actually makes us work hard to come to conclusions, to solve the riddle of life, to solve what is often referred to in the Sikh way as a mandavani, a riddle.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, life is far more like a riddle than something which is black and white. There's nuance. And to solve a riddle, you need to have a contemplative mind. You need to be problem solving. You have to really think through your actions and these ideas. And that's how the Sikh way asks us to approach life, to look at life as a riddle. And when you look at life as a riddle, you no longer feel angry when you don't know the path forward. You feel curious.
Yeah.
You no longer feel frustrated when you don't know what to do. It's instead an opportunity to overcome, to learn and grow from. So this is a very powerful way to look at the world, as a riddle that's meant to be solved.
And it's so beautiful when you said, because the only way that you can know if the divine is there is just like to go through it. You have to go through that way. You have to solve that riddle. You have to solve that difficulty. And you can't just sit and say, oh, it's indescribable. It's formless. It's timeless. So there's so much of thing I need to figure out. But only way you can do that is just like go through it. You have to actually enjoy, experience that divine path, which is just ahead of you, and you're just sitting there and not going through.
The Sikh way is not, and this is what is so unique with the Sikh way. The Sikh way is not a religion that says just do this checklist, follow these rules, and go to this building every couple of few days. And then when you die, you're going to get everlasting joy and peace. The Sikh way is the opposite of that. The Sikh way says, follow the spiritual path now. Work to understand we're all one. Do the hard work of battling your ego, of fighting the 5 thieves. Inspired by this oneness, work to uplift humanity. And then you will be transformed along that process by tapping into the infinity, the oneness that is within you, that will make you realize that all the joy and contentment and peace that you seek externally, that you seek when you die, you can instead get now while you're living.
In the present. And it is also so amazing, and I have so much curiosity in this. When we say, like you're saying, to battle with everything that is there, like joojna, baaki se cheez na joojna, when we say in Khalsai Boli, then we say chardi kala, there's so many of these things in Khalsai Boli, which is actually a way of life. Sarbat da Pala is actually a way of life. To ask divine about materialistic things and instead of just hoping nothing from him and just giving your best without any selfishness in it and doing everything, that is actually a way of life, and that is what Sikhi is called. How do you actually see the life that the Sikhi teaches us in through the terms of Khalsai Boli, like these terms, these words which have so much impact and meaning that people don't actually recognize it, that they don't even know how it is deep down ingrained in the Gurbani that you should live your life according to these words. How do you feel about that?
Khalsai Boli is this very powerful language that the world doesn't know. No, Khalsai Boli is this powerful language that can help us today live more resilient lives, and the world doesn't know enough about this incredibly powerful idea. So in the 18th century, so in the 18th century, Sikhs were being hunted to elimination. There was a literal price upon the head of Sikhs, that if you provided support to Sikhs, if you provided resources to Sikhs, you could be killed. If you were a Sikh, there was a threat upon your life. So in the 18th century, throughout the 18th century, Sikhs were being hunted to elimination. There was a genocide against the Sikhs.
Yeah.
And throughout this period, a Sikh would be killed and their head would be provided for payment. So because of this, Sikhs were now in the jungles fighting this guerrilla war against these empires that were trying to eliminate the Sikhs. The Mughal Empire, there's other invading empires. It was an incredibly tough time for Sikhs. It was not just bad for Sikhs, it was also bad for anyone who tried to support the Sikhs. So if you tried to give any resources to the Sikhs, if you tried to give any support, resources or food, you yourself could be killed, forcibly converted, and more. It was during this time when Sikhs were living in the jungles of Punjab without access to food and water, living throughout the scorching summers and the freezing winters of Punjab, that they developed this language of resilience. This language of resilience referred to as Khalsai Boli. And it's a language that looked at everything that was negative and reframed it in a positive sense. So if someone was blind, they would refer to this person as Surma, as a brave warrior. If someone had only vision in one eye, they would call them Lakhnitra Singh. Someone had the vision of 100,000. Meager food would be called something very rich and opulent. So a sip of milk would be called drinking the ocean, samundar. Chickpeas, which are considered more simple food or meager food, would be called something very rich and opulent. In South Asia, almonds are considered very rich food, badam. So they call chickpeas badams. There's this whole language that was developed that reframed everything negative as something positive. And that was the frame of Khalsai Boli. And it's a language that to this day inspires the language of Sikhs and inspires our way of looking at the world. One of the most powerful aspects of Khalsai Boli is this term of Chardi Kala. Chardi Kala is an incredibly powerful term, and it means that your kala, your spiritual state, is exponentially rising. It's Chardi, it's going higher and higher and higher. But the context in which it was used was very profound. In the 18th century, as Sikhs were being hunted to elimination, you could meet a Sikh who had been injured, who had been maimed, who had lost a limb, a family member, a loved one or more. And you would ask them how they are doing, and they would respond by saying, I'm in Chardi Kala, that my spirit is rising, that I cannot be broken, that in defiance of the trauma I have faced, my spirit is still strong. This is the way that we too can look at our lives now. To embody this idea of Chardi Kala is in the face of adversity, to hold on to optimism, to have a defiant optimism in the face of tumultuous times. But it's more than that. I think there's this other really fantastic idea of how they perceived one another. So this was a time in the 18th century where Sikhs were being hunted to elimination. And Sikhs would very infrequently see other Sikhs. Often Sikhs would just be in small bands or on their own in the jungles as they fought back against these empires. And so when they would see another Sikh, they would say, Savalak Aya, that 125,000 have come. And then when they would see a group of Sikhs, they would say, Faujan Aya. When they see a group of Sikhs, they would say, Faujan Aya, that the army has come. This is to say that despite being few in numbers, their spirit was powerful. that these are beings who had tapped into that oneness that connects us all, that limitless, eternal, true nature within us. So one wasn't perceived as one. These were powerful spiritual beings, and so they saw one as 125,000 others.
Yeah.
They saw a group as an army. Now, this is a mindset. This is a way of looking at the world that we too can foster today. To look at one another and say that if you walk this spiritual path, if you work to develop yourself, if you work to battle your ego, you too can have the capability of 125,000 others.
Yeah.
You too can have the ability to have the output, the creativity, the strength, the intelligence, the inspiration of 125,000 others, but not for the pursuit of selfishness, for fame or for riches, but to carry out the Sikh mission, which is the upliftment.
Yeah.
It's the Sikh mission of the upliftment of all humanity.
Yeah.
There's more though. There's like, Khalsai Boli is something that, there's so much the world can learn from Khalsai Boli. And I think one of this, there's a few ideas I want to share with you here.
Yeah.
One of the war cries that they would say, that we still say till this day, that is something used in Sikh spaces, but the war cry of the Sikh was Deg Teg Fateh. This is a phrase that is still used today in Sikh spaces, but it was popularized during the 18th century when Sikhs were being hunted to elimination. And despite that, in the 18th century when Sikhs were being hunted to elimination, they were being daily persecuted, losing loved ones, losing friends, losing family and more.
There have been tortures of tortures.
They've been tortured and more. You'd expect that in a time like that, your war cry would be purely around conquering your enemy, or your war cry would be purely around violence or revenge. The Sikh war cry at that time, one of the many war cries, was Deg Teg Fateh, which means through the cauldron and through the blade, we will have victory. The cauldron represents service. The cauldron represents the ability to feed, help, and support others. And the sword represents the ability to defend. But if you look at the path of victory through this war cry, it is first through service of others, then through lifting the sword, that victory comes. This is the unique worldview of the Sikh warrior. This is the unique worldview of Khalsai Boli, where these warriors, despite being hunted to elimination, despite feeling such high degrees of oppression and persecution, their war cry wasn't one of just violence and retribution. Their war cry was one of first service through Deg, through the cauldron of creating food and helping to feed and serve others. Then lifting the sword was victory obtained. And this is a beautifully unique way of looking at the world.
And it's so beautiful concept, like when somebody says, Singh di kirpan rakhi karan li pehla uthni chahiye hai. And even in Khalsai Boli, if I go more on it, there's so many of concepts that are valid in, and they will always be valid in modern day life. Because when you were saying about the Deg Teg Fateh, chadai kar gaya, and when I see in our modern day lives, there's been like postmodern world, there's the people are in such a rush. There's been so many of other oppressions that have जिन्होंने ने सानू घेरा पा लिया वा, चाहे वो loneliness, anxiety, depression. साडे कुछ oppressions जो पिछले समय से वो ख़त्म होके होना सी एक नई mental war ते हैं. Everybody is on a mental war right now. That's what I feel. How do you feel? Like there's such a beautiful concept if you want to express or explain me that on Rahau, which people ignore so much in Gurbani, but it has such an intense and deep meaning. How do you think these mental war that people are fighting right now, that's loneliness, anxiety, depression, how do you think Sikhi helps us through all these?
There's a few ideas here that I want to talk about. But I'll talk about Rahau, which is something I've been reflecting on a lot more. So throughout the Sikh way, throughout the Sikh teachings, we are called, when reading the divine poetry in the Sikh way, we are called to pause, to reflect, to think about what we have read. And in the Sikh way, the knowledge, in the Sikh way, how we approach one thing is how we approach everything. The Sikh way is a way of life. So the lessons within the Sikh way are not something that are just confined to the experience of engaging, of reading the poetry the divine poetry in our spiritual text, the Sri Gurratan Singh, but it's knowledge in a way of looking at the world we should apply in every aspect. To me, understanding the idea of Rahau is this. Throughout Sikh teachings, you are told to take a moment to pause, to reflect on what you have read, to understand the message, the lesson, the knowledge in that moment, and to internalize this idea in our day-to-day lives is to take a moment when we are living our day to pause, to reflect, to think about the lesson that can be found in every moment, because every moment is a gift. In every moment, there's an opportunity to learn, to grow, to become better. But how often have we truly taken a moment to pause, to incorporate this idea, to internalize this idea of Rahau? I'm not talking about the pause of going from work to pausing to look at your phone, to coming back home, to pausing from looking at your phone, to look at the TV screen, to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that deep spiritual pause where we take stock of our life, where we take a moment to reflect on where we are and where we want to be, to take a moment to reflect on, are we internalizing the teachings of the Sikh way, or are we improving spiritually?
Yeah.
Are we bettering ourselves? Or are we still stuck in this materialistic life that has us running from one desire to the next?
Yeah.
Rahau, when incorporated and when internalized, is a very powerful practice to say, just as when we read the Sikh teachings and are told to pause through Rahau to reflect on what we're reading, as we live our lives day to day, we need to take a moment to pause, to reflect, to see where we are, to reflect on if we are becoming spiritual beings or becoming more materialistic beings. And this is a deep kind of pause.
Yeah.
And as I said before, I just want to reiterate it. This is not the pause of you're at work and you pause to look at your phone, and you pause from looking at your phone to look at the TV screen and you go to sleep. This is a pause to take stock of us in that moment, to reflect, to meditate, to contemplate. But this is another idea, just to add on to that, is the idea that in the Sikh way, contemplation is sacred. So we are told throughout the Sikh teachings to do vichar. Vichar means to think, to contemplate, to discuss, to reflect, to meditate. Because the Sikh way is not a religion, it's not just doing a checklist and completing it, it's a spiritual path. So we then are called on to engage in reflection. We are called on to take a moment to think, to contemplate, to reflect, to meditate, to assess ourselves, our lives, and in that process, see if we're walking a spiritual path or if we're being drawn deeper into materialism. It's only when we take moments to pause through Rahau, we take moments to contemplate through Vichar, that we can really take a moment to understand where are we right now and how can we make sure that we're continually progressing towards walking that spiritual path.
It's so beautiful to know there's like the meaning of actually Rahau, because it comes in Gurbani so many times, ਇੰਨੀ ਵਾਰ ਆਂਦਾ ਹੈ, but ਅਸੀਂ ਕਦੀ ਇਸ ਤੇ ਧਿਆਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੰਦੇ.
It literally means pause.
Yeah, it means pause. Just ruko, samjho.
Yeah, but in Sikhi, it's not, like I said, this is a way of life.
Yeah.
So the lessons you learn in the Sikh teachings, you must then internalize in your day-to-day practice.
Yeah.
So that means if you read about the importance of pausing to reflect on Gurbani, then if you're living a spiritual life, take that practice and employ it in your life.
Yeah.
Take a moment to pause to see where you're at. If you're reading about doing Vichar and contemplating the divine, well, the divine is within us.
Yeah.
So have you taken a moment to contemplate your own spiritual state? Are you just walking through the actions, or are you actively engaged in thought and discussion to become a more thoughtful, spiritual human being?
And just having a moment to actually like even appreciate it, to just शुकराना करन दा समा लेके, like तुसी
Gratitude.
like सिर्फ मंगना ही नहीं कि तुसी सानू देई जाओ, like just have a moment to do a शुकराना and know what you have actually achieved or what you have actually gotten from divine is like so far more where you have started and where you are right now. There is, if like right now we're talking about the Khalsai Boli, there's so many of things which I really feel people don't understand, and I think there could be certain reasons behind it. What do you personally feel there are also some misconceptions that are right now prevailing in Sikhi? ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਬਾਰੇ ਪਤਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਇਹ ਗਲਤ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਜਾਂ ਇਹ ਸਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ, and that you think there are right now presently in Sikhi?
So the biggest misconception I see, and what has really compelled me to do these videos, is this idea that we are a religion as opposed to a way of life. And you engage with a religion very differently than you engage with a way of life. A religion is just a checklist. A way of life is actually taking time to reflect and understand who you are. In the Sikh way, when we describe the divine, we are also describing attributes that we want to internalize. And so one of the ways we describe the divine is antarajami. Antarajami is a very profound word. It's a very moving word. It's one who understands the inner state of an individual, the inner being of that person. And so for us to internalize antarajami is to ask, have we taken the time to understand ourselves? Have we taken the time to understand our own traumas, our own limitations, our own hopes and dreams? Have we taken a time to see if those wants that we have are in line with the spiritual path or in line with the materialistic path? Have we done that own personal and spiritual self-analysis? So these are the ways that we need to start examining Sikhi and understanding it in that sense. It's also very profound in how we look at the world. Understanding the Sikh path, the Sikh spiritual path, is also renegotiating our experiences with things like pain and trauma and re-understanding it. So it's so profound about the Sikh way is that wherever you see dukh, which is pain, you see sukh, which is joy. Wherever you see sukh, you see dukh.
Yeah.
These are often, it seems like they're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And these concepts are always together in the Sikh way, because when we talk about pain and joy, especially in this materialistic concept, the materialistic pain of losing things and the materialistic joy of having things, we recognize that however happy someone will be, that's how sad they will be.
Yeah.
Because both of them are still rooted in the ego.
Yeah.
When you have pain, which is from a materialistic sense, it's pain of the ego losing things. When you have joy of getting things, people or experiences, whatever it is, it's still this materialistic joy.
Yeah.
And the Sikh way teaches us that these ideas will come hand in hand. And the goal is actually to rise above dukh and sukh and to attain a state of santok, of contentment, of sat, truth, of nimrata, of humility, of pyar, of love, of daya, of compassion. These are the qualities that we hope to attach ourselves to. Instead, we are often distracted by the materialistic pain and joy that we experience that often come hand in hand in life.
That's so beautiful that you said, if there just sukh hai ਤਾਂ ਦੁੱਖ ਵੀ ਹੋਏਗਾ, ਜੇ joy ਹੈ, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਮਾਣ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਤਾਂ be ready to actually lose that thing if that happens in your life. And it's same as like,
how do you do that? And this is a beautiful idea. The Sikh teachings, there's this idea of hukam, and hukam is a really profound idea. And to understand hukam is to understand this. So hukam is the divine order of the universe. It's something that we all live with under. And to understand hukam is to understand this. If something good happens in your life, that's okay. If something bad happens in your life, that's okay as well. If you are successful in something in your life, that's okay. If you're unsuccessful in something in your life, that's also okay. To understand hukam is to understand that the outcome of our actions are not within our hand. The outcome of our actions are not within our hands. What's in our hands is the input that we can put in. What's in our hands is the amount of hard work that we can put in. The input is in our hands, not the outcome. And to accept hukam is to accept that whatever happens ultimately is in the hands of the divine. And the only thing that we can really try is to do our best.
I remember when Guru Arjan Dev Ji, jad ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੱਤੀ ਤਵੀ ਤੇ ਬਿਠਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ, then the only thing he said, ਉਹ ਨਾਮ ਜਪ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ, and he said, ਤੇਰਾ ਭਾਣਾ ਮਿੱਠਾ ਲੱਗਾ,
ਤੇਰਾ ਕੀਆ ਮਿੱਠਾ ਲੱਗਾ,
ਤੇਰਾ ਕੀਆ ਮਿੱਠਾ ਲੱਗਾ. And it is so beautiful that, because if something is not happening according to your will, it's happening according to God's will.
What a beautiful way of looking at the world that you've described.
Yeah.
Tera kiya mitha lage. Whatever you do is so sweet to me.
Yeah.
Imagine if we looked at the world from that perspective. Then no matter what we're experiencing, be it the highest of joys or the lowest of pains, that we understood that this is something that is sweet. It's something that is sweet because every single opportunity is firstly a gift from the divine, but also it's an opportunity to learn, to live, to grow. And when we understand it in the context of the Sikh mission of fighting for more justice inspired by our oneness, then everything is a gift. Everything is sweet. Because it is a moment for us to either recognize that we're connected or an opportunity to help others, inspired by that connectedness.
That's so beautiful. It is actually a way of life.
One thing just to think about, the line of Tera kiya meetha lage, everything you do is sweet to me, is said to have been, it was written by Gurratan Singh. The line Tera kiya meetha lage, that everything you do is sweet to me, was written by the sixth Guru. And it was also said to be the term he said to those who were torturing him. That as he was being tortured, to be forcibly converted, that he would respond by saying, Tera kiya meetha lage. That whatever you do is sweet to me, because this is someone who was one with the divine. This is someone who did not see an enemy. They saw only the divine. This is someone who was not fear-based. They were fearless. They were nirpal. That is, the gurus were one with the divine. All the characteristics of fearlessness, of timelessness, of being beyond all the limitations of this earth was something that they experienced and were one with.
And that is what makes you great. When, like, Shri Guru Arjan Dev Ji, like, us pavitra, like, una de sthan te baith ke, like, जिस स्थान ते वो बैठे ने तत्ती तवी ते, and you are being in such a torture, and then you say this thing, and that is why you are a guru. That is why millions of people bow down their head and they say they are the one who can show us the path. And when like you were saying, when we go through the way of life Sikhi is, what do you think one's soul journey, as we say, Tera kiya meetha lage, everything sweet to me. Through our soul's journey, what lessons do you think the Sikhi has the most profound effect that they can actually teach us in our life? That you can just implement in your life to have a good life.
So I think the path that is laid out in the Sikh way is incredibly transformative and powerful. And what it is this. If you work to understand that the foundation of the Sikh way is that we're all one and we're all connected, and you work to experience this oneness, you then recognize that pain that others experience is pain that you yourself experience, and you're compelled to fight against it. But to do so, you then must be your best. Because if you want to carry out the Sikh mission, then you must be your best in order to better serve humanity. And the Sikh way presents to us a really interesting and new paradigm of what is that ideal state of an individual who can fight to uplift humanity while also working to understand that we're all one and connected. And this is the idea of Sant Sipahi. Sant Sipahi is this really powerful state that a Sikh aspires to achieve. And it means the spiritual warrior. A spiritual warrior is someone who is focused on understanding our oneness through meditation, through reflection. But I also think that that is also a being who reflects those other aspects that come with reflection and contemplation. It's the poetic, it's the artistic, it's the musical. There's all these different expressions of that spiritual being. But because they are working to understand that we're all one and connected, that being also recognizes that the pain of others is pain that they themselves are experiencing. That pain is something that is shared by us all because we're all one. So they're then compelled to fight against that injustice. And they fight that injustice by being a warrior. And to be a warrior is someone who, yes, you must be physically fit. Yes, you must be strong. Yes, you must know martial arts. But to be a warrior is also to be someone who's intelligent, because you must know the art of war. You must know terrain. You must know strategy. You must be able to work with other groups. You must be able to have a small group of people that can then battle with a larger group of people. So there's a lot of intelligence and strategy that's also required in that. But that part of you is tempered with the love and compassion of spiritual growth and development. Sant Sipahi is a state that Sikhs hope to achieve. And it is built upon these two pillars of spiritual growth and also the strength and determination of a warrior. And this is a paradigm that allows us to both develop spiritually while also carrying out our mission of helping to uplift humanity. And I think this state of Sansapai is something that is so powerful that the world can benefit from.
Yeah, and it is actually so beautiful when we implement this in our lives. When you explain this, the concept of Sant Sipahi, do you think in even today's life, when we talk about all these concepts and they do relate with us, and the way you were explaining that you have to be ready for the battle, but you need to have those critical thinking aspects, you have to those intelligence, intellectual aspects in your mind. How do you feel when Sikhi says us that seek peace always? Singh di kirpan rakhi li pehla uthni chahidi hai, war li nahi. How do you think seeking peace always but being ready for the war when it comes to fight the injustice is a concept that there is in Sikhi, and it can teach us something for our present life?
So in Zafarnama, the beautiful letter of victory written by Guru Gobind Singh Ji, our 10th Guru, he writes this powerful line where he says, when all other means have failed, then it is just to lift a sword. So in the Sikh way, our approach must always be to exhaust every single opportunity before us peacefully before we then resort to self-defense. This is a profound way of looking at every aspect of our life. How often do we resort right to anger? How often in conflict do we resort right to opposition to another human being or to conflict when we're in a fight with someone? As opposed to first thinking, what are all the other means that I can exhaust before then going to ultimately like the last option. So many times in conflict, we go to the last option first and then we start thinking of other opportunities we could have done. So I think for us, when we recognize the knowledge of the Sikh way, is to recognize that we have a clear path before us where we're meant to explore all options before breaking peace and acting in self-defense.
That's so beautiful that you should seek other options before actually opting to raise a sword.
So the Sikh perspective of the world is really unique because the Sikh, at its root, the Sikh way believes in a pluralistic world. We actually think that at its root, the Sikh way believes in a pluralistic world. At its root, when we see diversity in the world, diversity of religions, of people, of cultures, in the Sikh way, we say that this is something beautiful. And we can see this throughout history. Our sixth Guru built both a mandir and a masjid. Despite the fact that there's many aspects within the Sikh religion that is critical of both traditions, the Guru still recognized freedom of religion and the need that Muslim and Hindu communities needed those places of worship. And we supported that because at its root, the Sikh path believes in a pluralistic world where people have freedom of religion and freedom of thought. In the Sikh kingdom, when there was a kingdom that was ruled by Sikh rulers, Maharaja Ranjit Singh, there was no state religion. Despite the fact that Sikhs were previously persecuted and faced forcible conversion under the Mughal Empire, when the Sikhs then had a kingdom of their own, they didn't do that. Sikhs believed in a pluralistic world. And under the kingdom of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, funds were equally given to Muslim communities, to Hindu communities. Sikhs were actually the minority. It was the vast majority of the Sikh kingdom, the population was Hindu and Muslim. But Sikhs, once again, believed in building a pluralistic world. Because at its root, the Sikh spiritual path is not one of oppression. It's not one of forcing beliefs upon others. It's a spiritual path meant for personal and societal transformation. And the way we do that is through recognizing that we must work to help others, not oppress them. So it's just such a unique way of looking at how pluralistic we perceive this world.
Yeah, and it is actually so beautiful when you say Guru Har Gobind Ji had made a masjid with like in beside of a gurdwara, and even though It is so beautiful that in those times, even though if you are not agree on a certain things with the rituals or anything, but you still support the other person to have a freedom of their thoughts and expression to practice their religion. And that Sikh kingdom which I feel जो उस टाइम ते सब तो अपने सुनहरी पलां च सीगा. And how do you feel like still कि ये सिੱਖੀ जो ਸਾਡੀ ਵੈਲਿਊਜ਼ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਰਾਜ ਨੂੰ ਜਾਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਿੰਗਡਮ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਡੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਲਾਈਫ 'ਚ if I say can we still experience those feelings of living in Sikh kingdom in those times in our present times, even though we know we are under different systems and this is postmodern world. How do you feel like those Sikh values which were on those times can still help us to be something or live a Sikh Raj wali life in present times?
What it is understanding that the lessons from these Sikh warriors, from the Sikh gurus, from the Sikh path are lessons that can help us today carry out the Sikh mission or just help people across the world. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. This is knowledge that was meant for all humanity.
Yeah.
And a part of why I like to do these videos and a part of why I want to share this on these podcasts is because I want to share this knowledge to the world. And like, we've covered so much of it, but we talk about the Sikh kingdom and how it was formed. It was formed by Sikh missiles, the Sikh confederacy of different missiles, which are different armies of Sikhs who had faced so much persecution. Like, their parents and forefathers and foremothers had undergone multiple genocides. They were almost eliminated in the 18th century. But at that time, think of the spirit of these Sikhs who were fighting against injustice, who despite in a couple of decades, Sikhs had 2 genocides, 2 kalukare happened to Sikhs. But one of their war cries was Har Maidan Fateh. They said despite the fact that they were facing defeat after defeat after defeat, they were still committed to the victory in every single battlefield. And for us, when we look at life being a battlefield, a spiritual battlefield, a societal battlefield, are we seeing victory in every aspect? Are we seeking victory spiritually against the ego and 5 thieves? Are we seeking victory against the social ills and injustice of the oppression of women or the caste system or prejudices or discrimination or otherwise? We must also seek victory in every battlefield. They also would say, Hanne Hanne Mir. Despite the fact that they're being persecuted and being told that they were lowly and that they were going to be wiped out, there was none left. We know the story of Bota Singh and Gurratan Singh, where they were told there's no Sikhs left, and they then in defiance set up a toll against the oppressive Mughal Empire, and they said, we're now going to toll those who come through here. And there's 2 Singhs with just sticks who then went battle against countless Mughals. They would say, Hanne Hanne Mir. They would say that despite the fact that we're facing persecution and oppression and so much tumultuous times, that within every single saddle is a king. Every single saddle is a royal being, because ultimately these were people who were connected to the Sikh way. And they understood that with each and every one of us is that divine. And there's no high or low. We are all kings. We're all divine. We're all queens. We're all royal.
I feel that is, like you said, it's just a way of experiencing how you seeing life. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿ ਕੇ ਲਾਈਫ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਹੋ? ਇਟਸ ਜਸਟ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਦੈਟ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋ ਵੈਲਿਊਜ਼ ਨੇ, ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਸਮਿਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ, ਬਟ ਹਾਊ ਯੂ ਸਟਿਲ believe in them, how you still carry on those ideas and ideologies to live your life. Even ਜੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਰਾਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਰਾਜ ਵਾਲੀ ਜੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਮਰਿਆਦਾ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ, ਜੋ ਸਾਡੀ ਵੈਲਿਊਜ਼ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ, ਕੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ 'ਤੇ presently ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੀ ਸਕਦੇ? And I feel it is so beautiful that you can be in Sikh Raj even if you are under different postmodern world, different systems. You can still experience those values, those moments right in present if you just be attached with Sikhi.
Totally. And I think, I know we have to wrap up soon, so I want to share this idea of how we can reflect on our history and how we can work to build this better world based on the inspiration of our history. I often think of the story of Paikanea, and this story was the history of Paikanea, I should say, because this is a historical fact. And it was shared to me recently in a different perspective. Paikanea, this was at a time which Sikhs were under siege. Sikhs were facing really these incredibly tough battles. And during these battles, Sikhs would be at war with their enemies.
Yeah.
And during those battles, you would be facing violence from these enemies. So the history of Paikanea is as such. There were these battles occurring, and Sikhs were being killed in these battles by the enemies that they were warring with.
Yeah.
And in those battles, a Sikh would be watching the enemy kill their friends, kill their family members. These were wars that were happening. And after the battle, a Sikh soldier going around giving water to the very soldier who may have killed their friends, who may have injured that Sikh, who may have hurt.
To the enemy.
Who may have hurt the Sikhs. There's a Sikh now going through the battlefield giving water to the very enemies that were killing Sikhs. So the Sikhs took Paikanea in front of the Guru and said, this guy is a traitor. This individual is giving water to the very enemy who just killed and attacked my friend, my fellow soldier, my fellow Sikh. And when asked by Guru Gobind Singh Ji why he was doing this, Paikanea said, I'm doing it because I see the divine in all. I see the oneness in all. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji then said, this Sikh is not doing anything wrong. He's actually carrying out the Sikh mission. The battle was never with those soldiers. There's actually no enemy. The enemy is injustice. Those soldiers were just attacking because they were probably commanded by their commanders to attack us. But they too, we are one with them. There's no enemy. There's no other. There's only one. And so Guru Gobind Singh Ji then gave Paikanea more medicines, more water to then serve those soldiers who had just killed Sikhs and continued to do that tradition. And it makes sense because Guru Gobind Singh Ji himself would go to battle and have gold on his arrows. And when he would pull back his arrows, he wanted to ensure that the arrows that flew, that would strike down those we were in battle against, that even those that were struck down from those arrows their families still had some degree of support.
Financial support.
Some sort of financial support, either to help with the last rites or to help for the families to sustain. Because Guru Gobind Singh Ji never had hatred in his heart during battle. His fight was against injustice, never with people, because ultimately inspired by the Sikh way, and the Guru was not inspired by the Sikh way. The Sikh Guru was one with the divine. The Guru Gobind Singh Ji was the Sikh way. And so Guru Gobind Singh Ji, who was one with the divine, when he saw and when he went into battle, it was never against enemies, it was against injustice. And that's why he would have these gold on his arrows, to ensure that even those he went to battle with were taken care of.
I truly feel this when you said, when Bhai Kanhaiya Ji got his answer from Guru Sahib. And when I was actually, I'm reading a book right now, which is on Bhai Jaswant Singh Khalra. And,
beautiful.
And the way he has helped the humanity and even the Sikh community especially. And
of course.
When his daughter was interviewed by somebody and ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਮਹਾਨ ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਸਿੱਖ ਹੋਣ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ. And that is what I feel Bhai Kanhaiya Ji was doing. He wasn't doing something very extraordinary. He was doing what Sikh is supposed to or meant to do. And it is so beautiful that you don't have to put efforts to be good. You should be good. You don't have to be...
It's a byproduct.
Yeah.
It's a byproduct of this oneness.
You shouldn't be doing something good out of selfishness. It should be like you're doing good. You're just doing good. There isn't anything on the back of your head that I am supposed to do this to get this reward. But I want to continue this spiritual journey right now with you for as many hours as we can.
But time is now.
But I'm feeling so much humbled. I'm feeling so much in a way that I can't even express, that you have taken time to...
We had a long conversation today.
Yeah. You have taken time to just make me go through the spiritual journey. Thank you so very much. In the end, if you want to say something to the community that we are from and we are here in Canada, how do you want to address those people who are not even Sikhs, but they are from around our culture and they are residing in Canada or all over the world? What message you want to say to them?
In the end, I just want to say that, just to end by saying, I'm not a Sikh theologian, I'm not a Sikh academic. I'm passionate about communication. I'm passionate about sharing this unique Sikh world view to the world. And I don't think enough people have heard about the great transformative impacts of the knowledge of the Sikh path and how it can work to really uplift us. And so I hope that this was a good conversation, and I hope we can have a conversation again another time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
बहुत
Wonder Veer ji, thank you for taking the time, brother. 8 months later, we did it.
Yeah.
But we did it for a long time.
It took us like almost a year. Yeah. So thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. And I loved every hour, like every minute, every second of this conversation.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Sat Shri Akal.
Sat Shri Akal.
Thank you.